Now, Antonio, what did you make out of the last session that we had just this Saturday when we went and we asked the boys to say something about somebody that they were thankful for? Do you remember? What do you make out of the extent of the things, who they had to thank?
Yeah, I think that it's really important that they really turn right towards their parents, many of them, or whoever it might be, and a lot of times it was the mother.
Precisely.
A lot of time it was the mother that I'm thankful for my mother for staying with me. I'm thankful for my family. I think for us it's a profound experience to, for a lot of the rest of society, they look at our youth as plagues, and they look at our youth as the ones that are the cause of all kinds of problems in societies. But for us, this is our community and who we care for. And so when we go and talk to them and they talk about their parents, it's really something that you can see. And when I talked to one of the young people, he said, all of my friends have stopped contacting me. They've stopped communicating with me. But my mother, she's been the ones that has stayed with me. And I talked to him. I said, well, that's usually the time when you're in a tough situation like you're in. That's when you're going to find out who really is by your side, and who really loves you, and who really cares for you. And and for a lot of these brothers, their homies ain't around no more. Their homies stopped, maybe after the first couple months, they stopped sending them letters. They stopped contacting them. But it's one of the parents, and usually the woman, who is going to continue to be involved in their life. And so for many of them, they singled out whoever it was that continued to be there for them.
Absolutely. And this reminds me, the idea about women just being there for us through thick and thin. I remember a sister, Karima Amin, in Buffalo, New York. And I know people in Buffalo, New York will be watching this show because we put this also up on Facebook. We put this up on YouTube. And Karima Amin set up a non-for-profit organization called Prisoners Are People Too. And we are, every time I go in there, I remember Karima Amin's organization, because not only are those young boys people too, but they are people who have awesome futures. Let me just give you an example. In fact, we had one of the men that came up to volunteer with us, who had spent maybe 3 decades ago, was an inmate, or a resident at St. Charles, and now he's about to get probably within the next year or so, he may be getting his PhD in counseling. But when I arrived there about 8 a.m. on Saturday, I go into the gates, I got my equipment into the van, they escorted me to the building, and the chaplain, who was Chaplain Elmo, asked me if I wanted to have some of the boys volunteer to help me on that. And I said, oh, absolutely. If the boys can volunteer, I don't only want them to carry a bag, but if they want to learn to set up the equipment, let them, even if it's play with the equipment. I have a Mac computer, I have the video, I have the sound system. I said, let the boys come out there and work. They can teach me. Maybe I actually told them, I can teach them a few things. I may actually learn something from them, because I know the kids are good at gadgets. So we showed up there, we pulled the van up, we entered the building. Between the two guys, when I looked around, there was just one more bag for me to take, because they had taken all the bags and I wanted to carry the one with the computer. So I said, no, I get this one. We walked into the building, and immediately they started to figure out what was the best setup, where the easiest outlet was. The guys already were starting to connect things. And then we had to move from one place to the next. But what was amazing to me is that I was trying to figure out, because I had this big panoramic camera, this screen. I wanted to give them the big movie experience. I have this huge, some of you who have seen me set up the film, I have this big, this speaker there. So I said, where are we going to put this up? And I asked for some sheets. So one of the guards said maybe there are no sheets, but the boys knew where the sheets were. And the boys got 2 sheets. And somehow they figured out, we said, okay, we have to put this up on the wall, but how are we going to do this? And when I turned around, one of the boys already had the sheet up on the wall. He took a book and he wedged it on the top. He turned around, he worked out the wrinkles. And before you know it, I just said, feel free to handle equipment if you know what to do. And before you know it, these guys had all the sound set up, and actually the young man who was out there helping me, when it was time for the presentation, remember I stepped back and I said,
he knew what was up, man. He knew he was really sharp with the computer, with the sound system, man.
And there was one guy there, you missed him, he didn't stay there for the session, but he was in high school and he was interested in technology. And this guy was telling me about the specs of this Mac computer and the specs of the camera beyond belief. And I was so glad glad that we had this opportunity. You know, even when we were, even the little administrative things that we had to do, they were out there helping us. So, and I just want to tell you, if you know any of the youth that are in Charles, or they may be at Audi home, or somehow have made a mistake to where they are trying to build their lives, please reach out and try to help them, because they're still at the mindset where they're trying to learn, and some of them may do things that you see are deliberate, but still they're in the mindset of children. They're still developing themselves, and we as adults have the responsibility for them. Caller, thank you for calling. Is caller, are you there?
Yes. Hello. This is Ursini Eugene Perkins.
Thank you, Elder, for calling.
And I'd like to commend Dr. St. John and Antonio for doing such an excellent job.
Thanks, Elder.
I think we also want to let people know that the mentor is not just individuals, but the community.
That's a very good point.
And we need to get the community involved in what's going on in St. Charles. The African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes.
But the village is really a metaphor for mentoring. And so I just wanted to add that we're trying to get more community organizations involved, and especially the religious institutions, especially the churches. I'll see you guys in a week or so.
Yes, thank you so much, Elder, for making that very important point. And you know, we had a meeting with us, Director Bishop and his Assistant Director Slaughter, and I very few times I go into meetings with high-powered people, and I come out of there feeling that they actually heard me, I heard them, and something is going to happen. And this was one of the times, and I really have to commend Director Bishop for articulating his concern about these young people as youth who need guidance, as youth who that we need to function truly in the best interest of the children, and to be open to what we were talking about, and to be discussing the fact that part of what he would want to see happen from what we did was to somewhat boost or to enhance the mentoring process, to be able to let us have the types of continued access. What did you think about how Director Bishop responded to this idea of having continuing care and aftercare with this youth? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were pleasantly we were pleasantly surprised to see that there's already been some institutional changes taking place under Director Bishop, and that they are beginning to recognize that the community needs to be involved in the aftercare process, and needs to be involved more with the young people who have made mistakes in their lives and are trying to get back on course. And so for us, it was good to hear that there are some people in these institutions who are trying to change the culture of these institutions. He talked to us about how for such a long period it's been really a punitive situation based on longer sentences, on making the conditions worse in prisons for young people, whoever it is. And now they're trying to recognize that doesn't work, and that actually the community needs to be more involved. And so I think the message for us, though, to take away is that there is some movement within the institutions, but there now needs to be some movement in the communities to also meet that. In other words, there's an opportunity. And so for those of you out there who have that, who share our concerns, and who also want to interact with some young people who know what's going on in our communities, who know what's going on in the streets, and who feel that they can reach out and touch some of these young people and just help them. You don't got to do everything. We're not trying to be superheroes. We're ordinary people who go out there and try to talk to them and do what little bit we can. You know what I mean? And so it was a good meeting, and I hope that they'll follow through on some of their. I know they have a difficult struggle themselves with. It's hard to change institutions, but it seems to me that they're pushing in the right direction.
Yes, and that again reinforces what Elder Perkins called to say. That when we say about mentoring, we need organizations. Elder Perkins has initiated a conference at St. Charles where he's brought different community groups that they can show, non-for-profit groups that can show what they do, and the people that the young persons can have access to after they leave St. Charles as they continue to build their lives. But also just institutions that are involved with raising the human spirit and giving people the ability to find outlets. We know a lot, and Elder Perkins shared with me a book about black males and violence. We know a lot about black males and violence, but we do not know much about black males and peace. How do black males hold peace, find peace, continue peace. These are the types of things that we need to be talking about and teaching, because we hear that 25% of every black male my age, a little bit younger, a little bit older, is caught up in the criminal justice system somehow or the other. You know what I hear? I hear that 75 out of 100 of us are not. What is our story? What is the story of the majority of black men who are doing the right things, taking care of their families, taking care of their children, who are hardworking, who do not rob anybody, do not rape anybody, do not kill anybody? What is our story? We need to be telling that story, and we need to show clear that we are the majority. And we are not purporting that all of us are angels. We all have made mistakes in our lives. But where we are now is just the beginning of the greatness of the future. So that's why we're appealing to you that when you think about parenting, when we talk about parenting, where of course we are talking about taking care of your kin, taking care of your seed, as some of them say it on the low end, right? Take care of your children. But we're also talking about reaching out to someone else's child, a child who may not only could be a victim right in front of you, could make a victim of your own child. But if nothing else, a child in their own greatness could be a teacher, a police officer, a superintendent, or even the future president over your own child. And Tony, we have a last few seconds here. What would you like to say as a takeaway for the audience?
Well, I just think that it's time that parents really think critically and think hard about who's interacting with their children and with the young people in their communities. If this whole Penn State, this despicable Penn State ordeal has taught parents anything, is that you can't trust everybody who's saying that they have the best interests of your kids in mind, and that there's a lot of people out there who say they're out for young people, who say they want to do well for at-risk youth, but they really have something else in mind. They're really prioritizing something else. So we need to find people, and we need people like you're talking about, who have those skills and who have figured out how to piece it together, and are positive people, and who really have the interests of our youth and are sincere about that. We need to step forward together and begin to really share that responsibility for our young people, and to build stronger communities, so that we don't lose so much talent, so that we make our schools better to actually educate our young people, and that we build. We can't wait no longer. We can't leave it up to the politicians. We can't leave it up to all these people. We got to do it ourselves. So I appreciate being here.
Thank you so much. You're watching the Do's and Don'ts of Parenting. Your host, Dr. Peter K.B. St. Jean, sitting in for Dr. George H. Smith, criminologist, sociologist, myself, the founder of the Peaceful World Movement. We were talking about mentoring. We thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Hopefully they'll talk to someone about religion and parenting. James Muhammad will be our next guest next week. Thank you so much for watching and calling. Have a good evening.
You gotta keep